let's add some effects to the player when he has a full set of armor from our mod. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. In previous episode, we added our own armor types and armor materials. In this video, we want to add some effects to a player when he has a full set of armor of one specific type. To do this, we need to tweak our items, especially the armors, and instead of using this armor item, we need to develop our own dedicated class for the item. So in the items folder, we will add a new class. We will call it mod armor item. Now mod armor item is extending from armor item, and immediately it asks to provide the constructor matching super. However, before this, we will start adding stuff. We will say private static final. Now we want to develop a map. A map is relating a value to a key. So a map of two different things. The first one is the key, and the second one is the value. For the key, we go with registry entry of a type. The type is armor material. This is the key. The value here will be an array list of something. The array list will be status effect instance. So what I'm saying is that I want to bind a whole list to an armor material, and we call it material to effect. Now, by default, it's yelling at me that you didn't instantiate this material to effect, you didn't give any value to it because we made it a static final. We can do something in maybe the constructor, but instead I will use a syntax provided by Java, and before the constructor I put this static block of code. Now this is a very special block. Each time you call mod armor item class, for whatever reason, it will immediately execute this static even before calling the constructor. So here I can start adding values. For example, we say material to effect equals to new hash map. And just by that, our error is gone. However, this map is empty, so we want to add values to it. We say add value, and this is a method that we will add to our own class few minutes later. Mod armor materials dot emerald. This is the key. The value we want to add is status effects dot hero of the village. Basically, what this means is that if I have a full set of emerald armor, the player should have hero of the village effect. Now you may ask, well, why did you use an array list here if this is all it's going to happen? It makes sense when you see that for the same emerald key, I want to give you a second or a third effect. And like so. What do I mean here is that if the player has a full set of emerald armor, he will have 3 effects. People had tutorials out there about this concept, a full armor effect for the player. However, they normally give one type of effect for a full set. And I thought that, you know what, sometimes I may want to give one, or sometimes I may want to give multiple effects to the player. For example, for the amethyst, if I just copy this, for amethyst, I have a very different thing in mind. I will give haste, meaning that the player should be able to mine faster, and then I will give it a night vision. But here is something that I will add, and I will put a to do here, add ignore effect. Now, basically, the ignore effect means that mobs will ignore this guy. Mobs will ignore the player unless some critical things happens. For example, the player attacks the mob or the mob bumps into the player. Just looking at this, I can tell you that, hey, I'm imagining a full set of amethyst armor being used when you are mining. And emerald is very good when you want to trade with villagers. Okay, let's continue. Let's just copy the whole thing. Now for citrine, I'm not sure that much, but I will give a saturation and I will give a resistance. No, actually, health boost. And again, ignore. So citrine will be nice for someone that is wandering around, but not for a long distance. And remember, when you copy paste, pay attention to everything. Okay. The next one is Ruby. I imagine the Ruby will be a dedicated armor for nether. So fire resistance and then resistance. I'm not sure this resistance means blast resistance or something else. And again, they ignore effect. The next one is sapphire. Now, sapphire is blue, isn't it? So I thought that, you know what? It makes sense if I use sapphire for wandering under the water. So it gives you the conduit power, so you can breathe under the water. Dolphin grace, so you move faster under the water. And then I was thinking about invisibility because, going around the ocean monument, that's hard. So I was debating between night vision and regeneration, or actually invisibility. But I think when I have the dolphin grace, I may see better under the water. We will take a look at that later. So I will go with invisibility for the sapphire. I will copy this set. Now for copper, I thought that, copper is something that can transfer electricity in real life. So how about we have it for an armor that behaves like a robotic extensions for the guy? So it goes with faster walking, higher jumping, and a slow falling, meaning that copper full set armor would a very good set of armor for someone that wanders around the world, but for a very long distance. He wants to jump higher, he wants to fall down, passing the mountains and stuff like that. It will make traveling around the world faster. I will copy the one with the ignore effect, and this one will be enderite. Now, enderite is a very overpowered effect because after that, I will add another one, and that is flight effect. This is the creative flight. So, enderite will have four effects. One of them is lock, the other one is night vision, and then I will add the ignore effect and creative flighting effect later. Now you see why did I have to use a list of effects for a single material. And this is how map is working. But this add value method is not there yet. So I will hit Alt Enter, create method. And that's the entry, and I will call it key, and I will call it effect. I will cut this guy, I will paste down, and here is where we should sit back and think how we want to add the effects to a map. We say array list and we call it temp list. First, we want to make sure that everything works before injecting the final result into the map. So status effect instance, we call it new effect, equals to new status effect instance. Now, if you look, it has different overrides. The first one is at the effect. Then we have duration, amplifier, ambient, show particle, show icon, and much more. So for the effect, we already have it. We passed it inside. For duration, I will go with a hard-coded number of 1200. This means 60 seconds, 1 minute. The amplifier is 3. This means the enchanting level 3. Then the ambient, is it an ambient effect? No. Should we show particles around the player? No. Should we show the icon of the effect? True. If you want to, you can give these two values as parameters for the method after the effect, and also the booleans and Here you would say comma 1200, comma 3, comma false, false, true. But because I want the same values for all of these, I just hard coded it right at the addition method. Now here, we want to make sure that the map doesn't contain the key. Because if the map has the key, we just need to change the value. If the map doesn't have the key, we want to add the value. Basically, the very first time I'm calling emerald, I'm adding a list to a key to my map. The second line already has this key, so I just need to add the second effect to the first effect list and then replace it to the key. That is why we go with the temp list here. Now we check if material to effect as the map contains the key, and the key is our key that we sent in. If we have the key, we need to do things differently. And if we don't have the key, we need to do the things differently. When the key exists, we say temp list equals to material to effect dot get from the key. Basically, we are retrieving the already existing list. Then we check if the list is null. This is a null check. This is called sanity check. Normally, it shouldn't happen. Normally, either you don't have the key, or when you have the key, there is something inside the list. So the list can't be null. But this is called sanity check. Means that I want to make sure that my code will never ever break. So if the unseen case happened and temp list returned null, I will say temp list equals to new array list. And just by doing that, I prevent the game from crashing. And finally, I know that I have a list here. So I will just add the effect, the new effect, to the list, the effect that I created. Now, if I don't have the key, all I have to do is to initialize the list, because there is no key, there is no list. So I will initialize the list and then add the effect to list. Finally, at the end of the method, we know that the temp list is ready. So we say material to effect dot put. At the key, put the temp list. Put is a very special case. If the key was there inside the map, it will update the value. If we didn't have the key, it will generate the key and then put the value. This is how we are creating our hash map. Now, time to do the actual business. Up until now, we added our effects and we updated the map. However, the armor is not adding the effect to the player. To do that, we have an overload called inventory tick. Inventory tick happens every time that the game will tick, and it happens for the inventory of the player. So basically, if you want something special happen when the item is sitting inside the inventory of the player, you can use inventory tick. Magnets, for example, you see some mods have magnets as items and say if it's sitting inside inventory, it will do something. And inventory tick is the way to go for that. So here we say if not world.isClient. Don't worry, world.isClient is not making sense right now. In the next video, actually, I will come back and talk about the very basic understanding of client and server threads in Minecraft. So just stay tuned. The next video is at least the theory concept behind this. So if we are on the server side, if we are not client, we will check if the entity that has the inventory and the inventory is ticking for is instance of player entity. Means that we are player. So we call it player. This checks that, hey, the entity that is sent in is a player entity and we already name it to player. Then we want an extra condition, and that is has full armor set. So if the player has the full armor set, because, well, we want to add the effect only then. Then if the condition is met, evaluate armor effect for the player. This means that if you have a full set of armor, go and check if we should add the effect to the player or we have nothing to do. So first we want to make sure that we are player, we have a full set, then we will evaluate if we should add any effects or ignore the effect. Again, these two methods are not there. So let's start adding them. Private Boolean has full set armor for player entity called player. And then the next one is private void evaluate armor effect for player entity called player. Now, the first method should return something. Here, we should first find all four slots for the armor. So we want to get an item stack for boots, and we go for player dot get inventory. So we are getting the inventory of the player. Then get the armor stack of index 0. That's the boots. Duplicate it. The next one is leggings, slot 1. Then chest plate, slot 2. And helmet, you guessed it, slot 3. So we recovered the item stacks inside the item slots for armor. These item stacks can be anything, including null. So we check, we return if the helmet dot is empty is false. Means that we have some helmet there, and if not, chest plate dot is empty, and not leggings dot empty, and not boots is empty. So basically, we are just checking if we have some armor in each slot and we have a full set of armor. Pay attention, here we didn't check the material types. We just are asking if we have a full set of armor. If we have a full set of armor, we want to evaluate to see if we should give an effect to the player or not. Now, I know that I could check the materials here, but I prefer to check a full set of armor before evaluating the materials, because if we don't have a full set of armor, we don't want to look through materials and anything else, and it's basically an early exit right here. So we won't pass to this line, and the tick method will finish faster. It's a little bit of optimization code there, because now you see that we have to loop through map.entry of type. Now the type is a registry entry of armor material, comma, array list of the same type of the map that we made. We call it entry for each inside materials to effect dot entry set. Now you see that immediately we are looping through every map. Basically, we are looping through emerald, amethyst, citrine, ruby, sapphire at least once. This is why we wanted to early exit if we don't have a full set. Because if we did this check here, each tick, we would check for all of these. And we can't do this loop inside return. We had to do it before return. So that was a waste of resources and the speed of computer processing there. Armor material, sorry, we call it material, equals to the entry dot get key dot value. This is the material itself. Then we say entry dot get value dot for each. This is a second loop. We call it effect, and we want to do stuff per item. This is a for each loop, basically. So this is another way of saying for each value inside the entry, call it effect, do stuff. And if you notice, this is one loop, this is the second loop, and again, that's why you want to have early exit conditions whenever you need to and whenever you can do that. Okay, here we say if has correct armor for the material and player, if we have the correct armor, and is status fading for the player and the effect. If this is happening, add the status for the player and effect. Basically, we are checking, hey, if the material is the material we are looping through, if that's the case, check this single effect. If it's fading out or if it's not existing, then add it to the player. And basically, for example, we have 1 emerald and 3 effects. This loop will check and check and check until we get to the emerald. And then we go for each effect and check the status of each effect, adding them one after another to the player. Okay, has correct armor. We say private boolean has correct armor. For the armor material, call it material, and the player entity, call it player. The next method is private boolean is status fading. Again, for player entity called player, and the status effect instance, we call it effect. I will copy this whole thing, paste it. Instead of boolean, it's void, and the method name is add status. Okay, let's start adding them one after another. It has correct armor. First, we want to check for the elytra, so preventing elytra from crashing the game. Why? Because elytra is not armor item. It's interesting. Sometimes Minecraft does things differently, and this is one of those cases. So you check if item stack, we call it armor, in each player dot get inventory dot armor. So for each armor in the player inventory, we check if not the armor dot get item is instance of armor item. If that's the case, just return false. Means that we have a lytra or anything sitting inside the armors that is not armor item. Another example is the pumpkin, by the way. So if we pass this, it means that we made sure that all four slots are actually armor items. Here we say armor item boots equals to player dot get inventory dot get armor stack of 0 dot get item. But notice it returns item, and we want armor item. So here we say cast, and it will change the code. Here we say armor item. Duplicate it 3 more times. Leggings, chest plate, and helmet. Leggings is slot 1, chest plate 2, and helmets are 3. Now finally we say return if the helmet dot get material dot value equals to the material we sent in. If that's the case, we go check the second one. If chest plate dot get material dot value equals to the material. Then the third one, if leggings dot get material dot value is equals to material. And finally, if the boots dot get material dot value equals to material. This checks all four armors to have the exact same material, basically a full set of one material type. We have the correct set of armor. Now we want to check if the status is fading. This code prevents the flashing of screen, especially for effects like night vision, when they are near the end of their effects and they are fading. So we say status effect instance player effect equals to player dot get a status effect of effect dot get effect type. Basically, we are telling that, hey, player, go and get this status effect from yourself. Now, this can be null, so we check. We return if the player effect equals null. Means that we don't have that effect. Or not player dot has status effect effect dot get effect type. Now, you may say, hey, wait a minute. If we can check the existence of effect this way, why did we do it this way? The reason is the third line. We say if player effect dot is duration below 220. Now, it means that player get a status effect of the effect type dot duration. However, this section can return null. So if I didn't check the null here, and if I just had this copy instead of this, you check that here we have an error which says method invocation is duration below may produce null pointer exception. Means that you should check for null one way or another. The alternative is to check objects that require non-null that. So instead of that, I done it this way. I just cache it inside the variable, check if it's not null, then check the duration. This means that if for some reason we return true, either the effect is null or player actually failed to have the effect, but it returns something. It just says that, hey, the effect is not there, or we have the effect. but remaining duration is less than 10 seconds, 11 seconds actually here, because the last 10 to 11 seconds, the effect will start flashing for night vision and some other effects actually. So we want to prevent that. If the duration is less than 220, then we know that here we return true, we have a full set, and for whatever reason, we need to add the status to the player. So finally, we get here. The last piece of magic is to say player dot add a status effect, new status effect instance. Here we say the effect that we sent in has a type. So dot get effect type. The next parameter is duration. So effect dot get duration. The next parameter type is the amplifier. So effects dot get amplifier. The next one is ambient. So effect dot is ambient. The next one is the show particle. So effect dot should show particle. And finally, effect dot should show the icon. And by that, we are making a new effect and we just add it to the player. And that's it. Basically, that's it. However, if I run the game right now, nothing happens. Because we are not using this mod armor item anywhere, so when we are going for the creation of armor, at least one piece, better to be only one piece, should inherit from this guy. Why don't we put it on our four or maybe two of them? Because if you have only one instance of it and the whole set is checked, that will work. If we put two of these as mod armor item, in each tick, we are ticking that effect twice because we are doing all this mumbo jumbo inside inventory tick. So one item of the mod armor item type is more than enough to tick the inventory and check the whole full set and give the effect. Now, which part should inherit from mod armor item? It doesn't matter, but personally, I prefer to not put it on helmet and not boots, especially because these two sometimes you want to do things differently for inventory tick. For example, on a helmet, you may want to show stuff to a player on the HUD. For boots, you may want to have some special effects, but leggings is a very safe piece of armor because I never had seen someone adding something special to the leggings. So instead of using new armor item on the legging, we say new mod armor item. The rest is the same. We just changed the armor item to mod armor item on one piece. That was for amethyst. We go for citrine, again, leggings, copper, leggings, emerald, leggings, enderite, leggings, ruby, leggings, and sapphire, leggings. However, remember, if you don't have a full set of effects for some special armor material, you don't need to initialize this mod armor item for that set. Now let's run the game. We don't need to generate the data. Let's just run the game. Okay, let's start with a full set of amethyst. And immediately you see that I got a night vision, I got a haste, and the night vision and haste are 1 minute. However, when the timer gets to the 11 seconds, it will refresh itself and become 1 minute again without fading the GUI around ourselves, flashing that nasty night effect for us. So that's two right there. Then we have the citrine. And of course, we have this night vision and this from the previous set. I wish we could just make it vanish. But here you see saturation and health boost. So those two are added. And the previous ones are gone. Now for emerald, remember it has three effects. There we go. Bad omen, hero of the village, and regeneration. And that's that. Of course, we need to wait for 20 seconds for at least these two to go. Then we have the ender right set. Come on. Okay. And you see that we have luck of 4. And again, the night vision. And remember, we have a to-do for that, for the ignore and creative flight. The next set, we have resistance and fire resistance. And again, we don't have that ignore effect yet, so we have to do them in future. And finally, the sapphire full set. As you see, we have conduit power, dolphin grace, and invisibility. Now remember, if I go into F5 mode, I don't see any particles around the player because I turned the particles off for the player. And the reason is that I didn't want to see particles occupying my view, especially that these effects will be consistent as long as I have these full set of armors around sitting in the inventory of the player. So that is a little bit of busy monitor for me. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.